Today on Real Life and Real Estate, what is your process? Well, welcome to Real Life and Real Estate. I'm Mark Peebles, here to help you live your best life and achieve ultimate success. And I believe part of that is getting you through all of these changes in the industry and helping you with things that are actually going to make you more effective in business. And that is what we are doing over these last couple of weeks. Before we get into it, I want to remind you of a couple things. One, did you know you can watch this on YouTube? So check us out on YouTube, Real Life and Real Estate. And you can also find the Real Life and Real Estate podcast wherever you get your podcasts. So let's do that. Open up your phone right now and subscribe to the podcast. Or if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. We really do appreciate that. Now, I also want to recognize our sponsor, Advantage Home Warranty. If you're in Ohio, they're an Ohio company, but they're locally owned in Ohio. They're a family-owned company, and it's really the best service in the home warranty industry. It's Advantage Home Warranty. You want to learn more, go to AdvantageHW.com. That's AdvantageHW.com. And, I keep an Advantage Home Warranty on my personal home, and I've had nothing but great service, and I've always got my money out of it every year. So that's Advantage Home Warranty at AdvantageHW.com. So today what I want to get into is the process that we're going to use to teach our clients about buying a home, the home buying process. Now, last week we talked about a framework. I like the framework concept, okay? Because frameworks give you something simple that you can walk through to be most effective, right? And last week we talked about the framework that you as an agent use to walk through a buyer presentation, and we use the acronym TURN. So you're going to talk to build rapport. You're going to understand the buyer's needs and desires. You're going to review the process, market conditions, unique value proposition, and important documents. And then you're going to move to the next steps. That is having them sign a buyer agency agreement, a buyer representation agreement. And if they're not comfortable or not ready to sign, it's moving to that next appointment. So that is the TURN framework. That one is specifically for you as an agent to walk through the buyer presentation, okay? Now, I'm not going into detail on that one today, so my encouragement to you would be to go on and listen to last week's episode. What I want to get into today is the 6 phases of the home buying process. This is a framework for you to use to walk your buyers through the process. This will be part of your presentation, and think of it this way. You're going to be most effective and you're going to show so much value if you come at this with an educator's heart. Your goal is to help educate, help coach, help your buyers understand the home buying process. And in that, they are going to see value in what you bring. Now, let me tell you something. This is just my opinion. If you're just looking at the buyer as another number, another, notch on the thermometer, in your numbers, if you're just looking at them as how much commission you can make out of them, then I think you're in the wrong business, because you got to care for people. That is the first and biggest value that you bring to that buyer on the other side of the table, that buyer, that couple, that family on the other side of the table, is that you care about them. Okay, so my first encouragement is to you is to look deep inside and say, do I really care about people? Because I believe in this business, the most successful agents actually care about their clients. They actually care about what is most important to them. And so you can communicate that very much with the educator's heart, with being a coach, with helping them understand the process. Now, this is a 6-phase process that we developed. We've got an amazing team that worked together on this content. And so we came up with the 6 phases of the home buying process. I've had people talk about the 9 steps in buying a home. I've had people talk about the 4 steps. Whatever you want to use is fine. These are the 6 phases we came up with. And my encouragement to you is write these down and steal them. You can say you came up with the process. we don't care. This is part of us as a company. We believe in an open-handed philosophy. Giving is one of our core values. And so we are giving you this information open-handed and tell you, open your hands and receive it, because I think there's a lot of value in it. Someday we're going to need something that you understand, that you have, that you've cornered the market on, that you're going to be willing to share back with me or with another agent. That's how we all help each other. So we're helping you today with the 6 phases of the home buying process. Let's get into it. The 6 phases are this. You've got the pre-search phase, the search phase, then you have the offer and negotiation phase, transaction phase, closing phase, and the post-closing phase. So those are what we look at as the 6 phases of the home buying process. I'm going to give a brief summary of each one. We're not going to go into quite the depth that we normally would. Now, we do offer a class. We're going to be offering this class October 10th in the state of Ohio for continuing education. And so if you want to join that class on October 10th in Ohio, just go to navexcareers.com. We'll have more information there on the website. There's a possibility we're also going to be teaching this out in South Dakota this fall. If you're listening from another state, great. If you want us to bring the class to you, I'm more than happy to schedule a time to come out and teach the full class to you and to your group wherever you might be. I love doing that. I love sharing this information. So let's talk about the first phase, the pre-search phase. Mrs. Seller, this is what we're doing today. We call it a buyer consultation. And today, the goal of today is to educate you about the process, and ultimately, it's the time when you hire an agent in the pre-search phase. Then I'm going to help you in this phase to get pre-approved, and we're going to get your search portal set up, which is going to send you instant listing alerts. So you're setting it up front with the pre-search phase that this is when they are going to be hiring an agent. That's what they're here to do today. All right. So that is the pre-search phase. Now, moving into the search phase, this is when we get to go shopping. This is one of the most fun parts of buying a home, is shopping for a home. Nowadays, we all carry these phones. A lot of people have Zillow or Homes.com or Realtor.com or whatever on their phones. And a lot of people, whether they're looking for real estate or not, are always on there just looking at properties. It's kind of like a social media to a lot of people. So basically, because it's fun to look at houses, this is where you actually get to do it with the intent to buy. So it's time to go shopping. So let's talk about a little bit about this phase. I think one thing important in this phase is that you have to educate your buyers that you're going to represent them and be their first contact for any properties listed out there, whether it's on the MLS or Zillow, Homes.com, any other website or app. Whether it's new construction, if they want to look at new construction and visit a builder, you're their first contact. If it's a for sale by owner they come across, you're the first contact. And if they talk to a friend that wants to sell their house, that they're going to bring you in on the process so that you can represent them and make sure that they don't get burned through the process, okay? So you're setting up when they're going to contact you during the search phase. Now, one of the things that I always say to buyers is when you're searching, when you're looking on Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, whatever search engine you choose to use out there, when you find a listing that you want to see, don't hit the button, okay? A lot of these search portals, their revenue stream is to sell your information. So they want you to pull up that listing and request a tour, and they are selling your data to an agent. We don't want that to happen, so I'll be your first contact for all of those things. Another thing during the search phase that I always educate my buyers on is the speed of the market. They need to know the market is moving fast, and it can move fast. If you see a house today, we need to get into it as soon as possible because it may not be available tomorrow. I talk through the do's and the don'ts of shopping for a home. Some of the do's, like definitely we need you to arrive on time. Ask lots of questions. Now, me, during this part, I'm not one that hands the the information sheet or the listing sheet to the buyer to walk through, because I find so many times buyers walk through and they're just staring at the information sheet the whole time and not taking in the house. So there's some certain things that we want to have you do as a buyer during the search phase and during showings. But then there's some don'ts, like don't go looking in people's private doors. Don't bring your pets. Don't bring food into the house. I do have people say, like, what's your opinion on going to the bathroom if someone needs to use the restroom when they're at the house? And I'm like, well, like, I have a small bladder, so I have to, like every other house I show. So I don't care about that kind of stuff. But we include those do's and don'ts when we're educating the buyer on the actual shopping process, the actual showing process and seeing homes. I also educate them on what I'm looking for in a home, and I educate my buyers as we go through the home. So I'll point out things that they wouldn't normally see. Like in Ohio, we have whole house fans. I don't know if you have those. You open a couple of windows, you turn on that whole house fan, and it sucks fresh air into the house. They're really nice during certain seasons where we live. And so I will always point out a whole house fan because they don't always put that in the listing. And then I'm always looking for other things. Is it a gas fireplace or wood burning fireplace? They may not know that just looking at it, but because I've got the listing information there with me, they can ask those questions. I can answer those, or I can point them out in advance. But I always tell them the things that I'm looking for. My number one thing that I look for a buyer during the shopping phase, I want to make sure that that house is going to resell. So if the driveway is at a 90-degree angle straight up to the garage, I want to let the buyer know that that can be a problem when they go to sell, that will be an objection that we'll commonly see. Or if it's on the busiest corner in the city, like that's going to probably be hard to sell down the road. And I want to make them aware of the potential objections that we might see down the road. And over the last couple of years, the craziness after the post-COVID market, it was nuts. And we saw people buy houses that, 10 years ago, they would have sat for months because of their location or because of the strange rooms that they had or the driveway that went straight up or, whatever. But during COVID, people got so desperate that they were buying those homes in droves. And so I just want to educate my buyers as to what could be a problem down the road. I also educate them about open houses. I tell them, feel free to go through open houses, but just tell that other agent that I'm working with you, that I'm representing you, and then they'll call me for feedback instead of bugging you for feedback afterwards. Now, we're going to move into the next phase, the offer and negotiation phase. This is where I'm going to talk to the buyer about the 5 points of negotiation: price, terms, dates, inclusions and exclusions, contingencies. One of the new terms that we have to negotiate up front as buyer's agents is for our commission, okay? And so this is going to be one of the terms that we are going to be negotiating for. And so all of that to say, I always go through those 5 points of negotiation. I help them. I talk to them about how I'm going to help them determine what to offer by running comparables, by talking about the current market conditions in that hyper-local market, and then also finding out what is really going to be their needs and what the seller needs are, especially if it gets competitive. We want to know what the seller needs are, and then help my buyer determine how to make a good offer. How am I going to help them win in multiple offer situations? That's definitely an important point to discuss. And one of the things I always like to discuss, and there are different things in different areas of the country, but we have escalation clauses and appraisal gap clauses here in our market. A lot of markets that I've spoken to agents in across the country, they use these kind of clauses or addendums, or they have other means of being competitive in multiple offer situation. So I'm going to talk to them about some of these more complex pieces of the process, but I simplify the complex pieces and explain it to them. And in the end, when their eyes are wide and they're going, I'm never going to remember this, I say, but it's okay. When it comes time to write an offer, I will advise you on how we should proceed with this. I talked to him a little bit about negotiation. My philosophy on negotiation has always been, negotiation is just a conversation. I think sometimes we make it too complicated, but basically negotiation happens when we open the conversation with an offer. They respond to the offer, just like if you're having a conversation, they would give their response. And we sometimes have to debate back and forth till we come to a meeting of the minds. But at the end of the day, we're not enemies. We all want the same thing. They want to sell their house. You want to buy their house. We just got to find something that's agreeable for all parties. So I'll explain a little bit about negotiation. I'll talk about electronic signing because that's a way that we do all of our signing in our market, and a vast majority of the markets across the country do that. But I'll explain the electronic signing to them. So this is all the offer and negotiation phase. Now, you win. You've got the house of your dreams under contract. Now we've got to get you to the closing table. That all takes place in the transaction phase. So in this phase, I will talk to them about what we call the 10 commandments of an accepted offer. I'm not going to go through all of them right here, but in the 10 commandments of an accepted offer, it's things like don't go out and buy a car, don't start a new credit card, don't change banks or change jobs. Like once you're under contract, you got to be very financially responsible and make sure that any questions that come up, like I had one recently where a buyer said to me, can I go out and buy my appliances before we close? And I said, first question, are you going to finance them or are you going to pay cash for them? And I think they wanted to finance them. I said, I probably wouldn't, but I would talk to your lender and make sure that you get their advice on that first because they're the experts in the loan process. So that said, we talk about the things not to do. We explain the difference between an inspection and an appraisal. We give them what the priorities are once we're under contract. You're going to apply for your loan, deposit your earnest money. We're going to get inspections ordered. We're going to shop homeowners insurance. We're going to review HOA docs. Those are the immediate priorities once we are under contract. I advise them on inspections, and I talk to them about the vast number of different kinds of inspectors that I have access to and contractors, because I want to give them education on, once you get under contract, there's a ton of stuff that goes into it. But don't worry, I'm going to walk you through all of this and make sure it happens, and it happens on time. All right, other things we talk about. If you want the extended version, I invite you to go through the class. But let's talk about the closing phase, okay? So what we include in the closing phase is like getting the clear to close from the lender, getting your utilities transferred within the week before, arranging for that utility transfer, doing a final walkthrough within the 48 hours before we close, arranging your wire transfer, and then you're going to sign the documents on the closing date. This is all part of the closing phase. We walk them through and really educate them on how we protect them on wiring fraud. Now, you're going to wire your funds. In the state of Ohio, you can bring a check up to $10,000. I don't know how it is around the rest of the country, if I could speak right. Now, but with that $10,000 has to be a cashier's check. The vast majority of people, though, are wiring funds. So I talk about wiring fraud and the risk of wiring fraud. I have not ever had it happen to me, but I've known lenders that it's happened to. I've known other agents that it has happened to where their client gets a fraudulent email a day or two before closing and sends their wire to the wrong place. So I always educate my clients on the trust but verify method of making sure you have the right wiring instructions. So I am going to send you the phone number for the right person at the title company that you are going to call to verify that your title or your wiring instructions are correct. We're not going to Google it. We're not going to go off of what's in an email. I will give you the number because I want to protect you and ensure that your funds get wired to the right place. So that's just one of the things that I talk about in the closing phase. Now, post-closing, do you know it's like 80% of home buyers, when they go to sell their house, use a different agent? It's because we as agents do a terrible job post-closing. What I tell my clients at the closing table is, listen, you are stuck with me. You're going to be my client for life, and I am here to provide support to you for the rest of your life. So I'll give you contractor referrals when you need something done around the house. Or when you run into an emergency like your basement floods, or you've got a pipe leaking, or you have roof damage, I'll be your first call for all of that to make sure we get you to the right person and help you think clearly through the situation. Now, when you need docs from your closing, sometimes your title person needs docs. I'll do an annual real estate review with you, which is something I totally recommend. I'm going to talk about this in future weeks, but you should always be doing an annual real estate review with your clients so that they know where the value of their real estate stands. You can help them build a real estate investment plan. Like, we're in real estate. We can't advise them on what stocks or mutual funds to purchase, but we can advise them on buying a real estate portfolio. So take advantage of that to educate your clients on how to invest in real estate. And then the other reason that I want to make sure they know post-closing they can contact me is with their referrals of friends and families, because I always have time to take their referrals, and I will care for their referrals like they were my own family and ensure that we get them into the homes of their dreams as well, or get them to their real estate goals. So all of that to say, that is the 6 phases of the home buying process. So we have number 1, pre-search, then search. Then we go into the offer negotiation phase. We go into the transaction phase, closing phase, and post-closing phase. And this is the framework that you can use to educate your clients. We hope we'll make it yours today.